This video will show you how to assemble the 36209 hydraulic motor. A finished motor that's assembled is shown here on the piece of paper. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to assemble the bushings onto the housing and end cover. There are two bushings that might be provided in your kit. One bushing has a thicker cross-section than the other. As you can see, this cross-section is thicker. The thicker cross-section will be installed inside the main pump housing. The other main component of the motor is the end cover. We will install the thinner cross-section bushing in that. Here we have the arbor press and the end cover ready to press the bearing in. We're using a press tool, but you can use any type of pin. The press is not that tight. So what we're doing is we're pressing the bushing bearing all the way till it ends on the cover. You can see how the bearing is slightly recessed. We don't want that bearing to protrude from the face. Likewise, on the pump housing, we will do the same. The bearing has a nice lead in. And there you have the bearings installed. Next step is to press the lip seal into the housing. We're going to use a socket that fits tightly with the bore to press our seal in. We at MP Pumps use a custom press tool, but out in the field you would want to take a typical socket that you can drive the seal in this manner. The seal gets installed with the housing portion up, very important. You would not want to put the seal in backwards. So here we're going to stack the seal up on with the socket onto the housing. The next step is to put the shaft inside the pump housing. Before we do that, we need to lube up the shaft so that we don't damage our seal. Hydraulic oil is the best thing to use, however grease would work as well, a thin grease. Take the shaft and push it through and rotate the shaft as well. And the shaft will glide through the seal, glide through the bearing. Push the shaft all the way in until
Now we're
it
going
stops.
to assemble our gerotor inner element onto the shaft. You'll notice the pin slot here to accept the pin, and you'll also notice the gerotor has two different slots. We're going to use the round slot, not the square slot, on our assembly. In order to put the pin on the shaft and make it hold, we're going to use a little bit of grease in the groove, and then we will slide our pin into that groove, and the pin is then held. Right now the gerotor inner element is lined up with the pin for the round groove. Round groove is on the high side of the lobe. You can index the gerotor so it lines straight up, and then we'll press it in. Now we have our assembly underneath the arbor press with the pin in place on the gerotor, and what we'll do is we'll press the gerotor all the way to the end. What you want to do is press the gerotor element just beyond the groove for the clip, as shown here. And then we're going to install the clip, and we can do that by hand. There's a chamfer on the shaft, and one can take their thumbs and get it started and slide the clip over the shaft into the groove. Now that the groove is in the shaft, we want to press the gerotor back to the clip. You can see how pressing the shaft back and makes the clip run against the inner gerotor element. We have our pump housing assembly installed with the inner gerotor element. I've went ahead and put the quad ring in the groove. You can just drop that in. It's always good to use a little bit of oil as you install the gerotor assembly. Make sure you have some oil around the gerotor so it can be lubricated. The center spacer has two different hole sizes. You can see a small hole size and a larger one. The larger hole size is for alignment with the shoulder bolts. So the inner spacer needs to be assembled so that those holes are the same in lining up. So here I'm lining up the large hole with the large hole. And of course our flat lines up as well. Using more oil, I'll set this aside, and I'll also put some oil on my cover, drop the quad ring in, and then we will assemble the cover to the housing. Some alignment may be necessary so that the shoulder bolts go all the way through. Shoulder bolts align the whole assembly. This motor can now be tested as long as you put nuts on it to hold them together, or you can install this motor onto the pump and then run it.